Hi, I'm Anna and this is Art Club for July, and it is the theme this month is Wish You Were Here. So we're thinking about little postcards, or alternatively postcards from the hedge. We're going to be making this today. You can see it's a little picture of what I'm holding in my hand right here, and all you're going to need is a pencil or a pen, whatever your preferred drawing instrument is, and something to make some colour with as well, and a little piece of paper, just something really small. You can see how little that is. Let's get going. Right, so I'm outdoors. The sound quality may or may not be interesting. I've got my little piece of paper, and you can see from the size of my hands that this is indeed quite a small piece of paper. It's currently balanced on top of a water butt, and there's a plant pot holding the camera, so this might get a bit interesting if the wind gets up. But this is about being outside. It's this time of year. We don't want to be inside at this time of year. So I've got essentially a little postcard sized piece of paper. And that's what I'm going to do my drawing on today. Now, the idea is that it's kind of a wish you were here thing. So what I'm saying is I want to share what I'm finding around me, what I'm finding in my environment with you wherever you are. And what I've found today is one of these. And this grows like mad in my garden. And I encourage it because it attracts elephant hawk moths. So I'm going to be using this willow herb to make my picture today. And what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to try and draw it life size, so you can see how it fits on the paper. The goal here is not to draw something teeny tiny in the middle, but it's to go right over the edges. So I've taped it down to make my life. There's somebody doing some building works over there, that's very helpful. Funny noises. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it, but what I'm going to do is make it as simple as possible to draw. So if you're nervous about drawing, please don't be, because tracing around things is completely legitimate, and there's a few ways you can do that. If you happen to be in bright sunlight, you may find there's actually a shadow outline on the paper. I haven't got that today. I think this is the first cloudy day we've had in about 3 weeks, so I'm quite delighted about that. So I'm going to go for a different approach, which is going to be just kind of outlining it as I go and trying to get some of these lovely shapes. I'm going to put it next to it, but if I just trace roughly where the stalk's going to go, I'll do this a little bit harder than I would normally. This is just a soft pencil. That's what I'm going to be drawing with today. You draw with whatever you like, it really doesn't matter, whatever's floating your boat today. I nearly went for a black coloured pencil, and then I decided that actually I wanted something a bit more kind of smushy. So while we're drawing, what we're doing is we're using this as like a little relaxation exercise. We're just observing every different bit of the plant. What makes us understand what this plant is? How do we know? If you don't know what it is, now's the time to go away and look it up, because if you're going to pick anything, make damn sure it isn't something poisonous or rare before you do so. As a general rule, I wouldn't go around picking things. The only reason I have picked this is because it was actually overhanging the path in my garden, so it was going to have to be pruned anyway. And as I say, I am literally drowning in the stuff. Now, I'm going to try and make this the right size. So my goal here is to draw everything the size it actually is. So these flowers, I'm getting a lot of camera shake here. This is down to where I've positioned it all. It'll be fine. I'm sure with modern technology we can unshake that. So okay, I've got one of the flowers, and look how interesting these flowers are. So you can see that they have 4 petals, and they also have 4 kind of extra petals coming out the side, little skinny ones. So they're actually forming 2 crosses opposite each other, which is really interesting. And this one's at a slight angle, and please don't be judgy about your own drawing skills if you're doing this, because really you're only doing it for you. I mean, if you're really feeling like you can't draw it, what you could literally do, there's actually a way that people do this. They put it down flat, put something over the top, and basically hammer it flat, so you get an imprint of the flower or whatever on the paper. That looks like the best fun, but I'm not even going to try and attempt that on top of this, because I'll probably break the top of the water butt cover, and all my paints will descend into the depths. Not that there's a lot of water in there anyway at the moment. So I'm just working my way down, and there's a lot of petals on this, so I am not even going to try and draw every single one, because it's going to look too jumbly. I'm just observing. These are the things that help us understand. See, here is a seed pod forming off a flower that's finished, so that's a very different looking thing to that, although actually even that's got a little bit of beginning of a seed pod. So that's interesting. So even when you go all the way back up here, you can see where the seed pod is going to form from. And then down here at the bottom, the full-on, like, these are just seed pods now, with this incredible stripe down there with the pink on the top and the green underneath. They're really beautiful. And I think for me, and I love nature drawing, part of the reason I love it is because it gives me the time to just slow right down and really observe. And when we do that, we drop into this wonderful, quiet mental state, which is incredibly beneficial for us. We all know it's good for us to be out in nature, and we also all know that we don't have the time to do it, don't we? You know, we're a busy species, aren't we? But I think this is basically snatching back 10 minutes for yourself. They have very long, thin leaves, these. And what the caterpillars do sometimes is they wrap themselves up in a leaf like that. So you'll find a leaf that's completely curled up like that, like they've made themselves a little sleeping bag. So I was very careful when I picked this not to pick one that did have that sleeping bag on it, because I don't know what's in those. And it's been an absolutely corking year for butterflies this year, which is fantastic, because we've had a couple of dreadful ones. And we had a cold start at the beginning of this year, and the butterflies suffered terribly. I don't know what it's been like in other countries, but yeah, we've had years of... I always do there's a butterfly survey every year that I do, and it's been worse and worse and worse every year, to the point that I was really starting to get quite worried. And I grow a lot of plants in my garden, which is where I am now, that are very butterfly friendly, like this. So I'm hoping gradually to tempt all those guys back. Now, I'm going right off the edge of the paper. Again, personal choice. I love going off the edge of the paper. It feels a bit naughty, doesn't it? Let's have a look. Is that about there? I might put something else. I haven't put in all the flowers. I could see it was going to get very cluttery, but I am going to put in one more here. This one just here is going to go in. This one that's finished. Just to fill that little gap. There we go. It's quite a messy little flower. And what we're going to be doing with these is we're going to be putting some colour on. This pencil is a little bit blunt, really. It would have been nicer if it had been sharper, but you know, them's the breaks. We're just gonna go with that. So okay, here we go. So this is my you describe it as kind of an under drawing, and I've got my flower right here. And then the trick here is mixing the right colours. Now, I'm using watercolour and two of the nastiest brushes I could find. This is mainly because I'm at home and I'm not in the studio. And also, to be quite honest, I usually just paint with whatever is to hand. So, unusually for me, this is a very small brush, you can see. I don't usually paint this small, so this is going to be quite a departure for me. Now, I'm going to start thinking about what is that. So we've got greens and I've got pinks. And I've got quite a nice, you can just see it on the corner of the palette, I've got quite a nice pink here. Absolutely nowhere to mix it though, so let's just have a bit of a clean up. That'll do. I don't need much space. That'll do it. Yowza, that is pink. But so is this. So I'm going to mix a little bit purple with it just to... That's better. And trying to get the right colour is part of the fun here. How do we know what a plant is? We know what it is if it's either the right shape or it's the right colour. So I am going to just, for once in my life, paint quite slowly. Because actually this is about relaxing. I'm just going to fill in some of these. And when you're painting plants and things like that, what you'll find is if a colour is in one part of the plant, the odds are very, very high that it's also somewhere else in the plant. So for example here, as I say, you find it on the seed pods. So to make the whole painting hang together, what I'm going to do is just rinse the brush out a little bit and put in some of that pink down here on the stems, on the tops of the pods, just diluted. If you're not using watercolour, this will work perfectly well with gouache. It will work perfectly well with pretty much anything you throw at it. The idea I want to kind of develop here is layering things up and taking the time to do that and just relaxing. Okay, it's going to dry like mad here because frankly it's ridiculously hot. So let's just put some green on while I'm at it. Now that's quite an interesting green. So you can see it's a very a muted sort of green, and the temptation is to reach for the white. Oh, actually, interestingly also as well, look at the pink vein running down the middle of that leaf. I don't know if you can see. But the more you look at a plant, the more you will see. And this is greater willow herb. It's a big fellow. It grows to about, I don't know, 6 feet maybe. 6 feet would be about right. So I'm going to mix in a little tiny bit of blue to my green. Oh, that's dirty. That's a revolting colour. This is what happens when you don't clean your palette, folks. I reckon that's about there. So I've just mixed a bit of blue into my green to kind of dull it down. And now, with no white, I get this very kind of just a little bit more gentle, a little bit more muted. And the goal here is going to be to put some layers on the top of it. So this won't be the only layer. I'm just sort of starting it. Is it paler at the top? Yes, it is. It's darker at the bottom. The stem has pink down one side and green down the other. So I need to start thinking about that. But the top of the plant is very much paler than the bottom. So my God, it's drying so fast I can actually put in and start putting in extra bits. You may never see me paint inside the lines again. This may be a one-off. I don't usually paint inside the lines, as you may know. So is there green on the flowers? No, not really, but there is a little bit of white in the middle, which I'll try and retain. That might be quite difficult. We'll see how that goes. Right, so one side of the leaf is darker than the other. So I'm going to make this a front-facing leaf. And this one a little bit more. No, I'll make that one a front-facing one as well. That one's kind of flipped around, so we'll not worry about that. But I am going to try and get that pink line down the middle because I think that's important. Right. Leave that green bit to dry. And what I tend to do is work sort of between... Oh, useful moss to dry my paintbrush off. That's nice. I tend to sort of work between colours. So I'll do a little bit in one colour. And then I'll move to a different colour while that dries, and that stops the colour bleeding, which is what we don't want. So this is a much redder colour, so let's just give that a little go. I often have, although I don't have it here, a little piece of scrap, because if I have a piece of scrap then I can test colours before I sling them on the painting. And what I notice a lot with beginners is that they don't test before they go in, and then they're like, oh my god, it's the wrong colour. Yeah, but you didn't test it, and we all make mistakes. Okay, that's quite nice. Right, what other colours do I need to get into this? I need to get the pink down the stem, so let's get a little bit of that. The nice thing about watercolour is if you do get too much colour in, you can remove it, which is convenient. So let's get some of these little leaf veins in, and also I need to, I've missed a few of the stems out and a leaf. Let's put that leaf in behind there. And the nice thing about watercolour again is that you can just sort of, if you think, oh, I haven't made it bold enough, that's fine, go back over. A lot of watercolourists build layer by layer by layer, and that can be an incredibly peaceful and lovely way of working. So for example, I can just keep, if this isn't dark enough and I decide I want a bit more oomph to it, I can keep layering it and layering it and layering it. I may not, I quite like it in its kind of relaxed state as it is. I'm going to just try and flat brushes. This brush seems to like being flat. It's quite useful for putting in lines down the middle of things. That is quite hard to do if you're doing it with a round, with a point of a round. I would just go straight for a flat. Right, let's just do a bit of a darker green. You'd be surprised where shadows can be. So for example, if I look at a leaf, it might be that there are shadows. So that's got a bit of a bend in it, which is giving it a shadow. And that's got one actually down there. Don't be afraid of putting darks in. And if you just build it up gradually, you'll find that actually you can do that. You can put in darks without being too worried about it, because it's a bit like layering pieces of glass. The more you put on, the more you can see where there are other bits that you could be bolder, you could be darker, and it will just bring the painting to life. This is like purist botanical painting almost. I don't do that very often, gotta be honest. Yeah, that's nearly that. Just put a little bit more colour on those, a little bit more colour on those petals, just to give them some sort of three-dimensional . So you could layer coloured pencils, you could layer pens, they would work well. What else could you layer? To be honest, there aren't many art materials you can't layer. But the key here, I think, is having paper that will take that kind of layering. With really, really cheap paper, if you've got really cheap paper, I'd go for pencils above and beyond anything else, like if you're using copier paper or something, because you will find that if you try and paint on thin paper and put this many layers on, you will go through the paper. Let's put that in there. It's a bit of kind of deep red here. To be honest, the more I look at things when I'm doing this, the more I see and the more kind of calming I find it. And also, here's a convenient thing. So pink and green are kind of opposite each other on a colour wheel. Red and green are, but pink and green are. So if you mix them together, you get like a dulled down version of the red. And that is going to be just perfect for the bottom part of that stem. just to make it pop. Now, I've foolishly put the tape there, haven't I? That was very silly. Gonna have to take it down to the bottom. I'll put the pencil in afterwards, it'll be fine. Let's just get a little bit more green. A little bit there. That'll do the job. Okay. There we have it. It's a life-size greater willow herb, and my idea is that you do lots of these. So don't just paint one, paint 6, paint 10. If you put them all up as a set, they will look completely awesome. So I would say paint as many as you can. Do each one life-size. Don't worry about white space. I mean, you could fill it in with something if you like. You can very carefully paint around the edges of things, but don't do that until this is completely bone dry, or what you'll find is you'll end up with bleeding happening where this colour moves out into the other colours. So we're going to avoid that. But there we go. That is our little postcard from the hedge. Okay, so I hope you've had a fun time today making some little postcards. I hope you can manage to get outside. And as I say, the more of these you make, the cooler it looks. I actually made 100 postcards recently, just drawing what I'd found around the garden and around the woods near my house. So I can tell you 100 on a wall looks awesome. So the more you do, the better. Maybe one a day over the summer, who knows? Remember, don't pick anything you don't know what it is, don't pick anything rare, and enjoy the countryside. Happy painting.